Hello, family. Welcome back to JFK Today, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. Just before we jump, JFK Today is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're on Patreon at Janaya FK. I am so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. I just want to be just straight up. I've lost it. I am losing it right now. KR is behind me. You can't see them if you're listening to the podcast, but if you are a person who likes YouTube, if you are one of 12 people who watch it on YouTube, don't worry, y'all. I believe in the growth. I've lost it. A few of my friends have had their homes reduced to ash, and there are fires happening all over Los Angeles. I was a bit delulu and was hoping that things would settle down when the wind sort of went down. There's a windstorm. We talked about in yesterday's episode, and it's been sort of still blowing. I'm like, where did that come from? Where is the wind? This is not the Santa Ana thing that I learned about. We know that climate change has a lot to do with it. But, this morning, 293,000 people here in Los Angeles were under mandatory evacuation. That is a 300% increase from last night. Over the past 24 hours, fires have spread from the Eaton fire in Altadena and Pasadena. There's a Sunset fire in Hollywood Hills. The Palisades fire has spread up to Malibu. And there was a smaller one in Studio City, which I'm very grateful was resolved because I have some friends out there as well. And I don't know how to be a person right now. My heart is just broken, and I just know what it's like to not have a home, and I know what it's like to lose one. And I think, it's one thing to feel like you have nothing to lose, right? That is a very unanchored, impossible feeling to carry alone. And it's another thing entirely to have things that you could lose that mean something to you when you've built some sort of small slice of life. I am very grateful that everyone that I know is alive and well. And though the rebuild will be difficult and challenging, we will rebuild. But somebody's responsible for this. I know this, right? Look, we can point to climate change, which I've mentioned, right? We know that there's droughts. We know that climate change has made, we don't do controlled burns here. We don't do controlled boins here. There's a lot of variables at play when it comes to California and water. But something's off. That's the thing that I noticed. There's something terribly off. And yes, we talked about Mayor Karen Bass cutting $23 million from the fire department. But here's the thing, right? That was to illustrate money being redirected to police. But $23 million doesn't cover the spread for the need. There's something glaringly obvious in how these fires spread beyond the factors that I've mentioned. There's some water missing. And I'm not talking about the idiots, right? On the right, the dummies, the losers, the weenies, the ones who are blaming DEI and the fire department for how we got here. Or what about the other idiot that talked about using salt water from the ocean to put the fires out? Because salting the earth that's it. That's the move, right? That's not an ecological disaster. But there's something missing. I could be wrong. I knew that when I went into this. But I love doing a little digging. So down the rabbit hole I went. And here we are, right? I've been double fisting albuterol. Let's just be really clear. I'm a gunslinger right now with my inhalers. And I discovered something, and this is a special episode. And I'm calling it, and we are calling it, The Billionaires Who Stole LA's Water Supply. All right. Now, just to preface, this is LA, so I know for a fact that there are several people out there who just found out for the first time that they're actually not the primaries in their poly relationships. Okay. Jars will be thrown. Jars have been broken. But I did some digging, and I found out that there is, in fact, a population responsible for this water supply. Here is a news segment from Fox 11 LA that is going to answer that question.
Yes, I can hear you.
So the family with the poor little girl who was...
Fire happening right now.
Say that again?
Why is there a fire happening right now?
There are multiple fires that are taking place.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're the news though. You're supposed to know.
Well, I don't know how it started. We don't know how it started. There, you know,
I think
winds.
it's all the gay people in LA.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
We got the
unacceptable.
It's the gays. My favorite line was just being like, unacceptable. Did you like my redirect? You thought it was going to be about billionaires, but no, it was the gays. It was the fagos. There's too many of them in LA. They did, you know, in the homophobes' defense, they did say that we were going to hell. they mentioned that. And certainly LA has been a hellscape for the past several hours. What is wrong with me? Okay, no, listen. There are people responsible for this. Beyond the fagos, beyond the gays, the Resnicks. I'm about to tell you a story that I can barely hold myself. I can't contain myself right now. I'm so upset about this. But let me tell you this story. It's one hell of a doozy. The Resnicks. Who are they? This is a billionaire couple. One billionaire couple. And this couple, these two people own almost all the water in California. You heard me correctly. Two billionaires own a massive share of the state's water system. So the companies that they own, who are the Resnicks? What do they own, right? They own this thing. It's all under one massive umbrella. You can look all these things up. The Umbrella Corp, right? That they have all these things under is called it's called Wonderful Company. And I'm like, first of all, you two are decidedly not that. But they own things like Teleflora, you know, that place where you could just get flowers and there's a phone number, whatever. Fiji water, you know, very unassuming bottle. Palm. Remember that when everybody was like, you've got to drink this pomegranate juice. It's amazing. It's so good for your heart. That's them. That's them. Then they have other things like Wonderful Citrus, Wonderful Pistachios and Almonds. Here's the thing. Nearly half of Americans buy at least one of their products. So even if you've never heard of them, you or someone you know has consumed something that they make and manufacture: wine, flowers, mandarins, pistachios, almonds, right? So let me break this thing down in depth. The first question, right, that I had to ask myself before I put on my tinfoil hat was, don't we just naturally have a water shortage in California? That's a fair question, right? We have droughts. We have rains. They're very inconsistent. California's natural water supply is very inconsistent. Drought is common. Like 2 years ago, we had rains that felt like monsoon flooding. You know, two of my closest friends had house damage because the housing here just wasn't built for that. I had to put garbage bags over my water heater with rocks. I'm very industrious that way, right? I collected it with jars. No, that's a terrible callback. Ignore it, okay? So this is true. We have very inconsistent, and the differences in rainfalls from year to year are vastly different. So to make up for that, for the fact that we have droughts and that our water supply is inconsistent, we devised something, the people, called water banks. And water banks, they just hold it. They're called, you know, another word for them is reservoirs, right? And during rain surpluses, we put that water into reservoirs for the dry years, right? That's amazing. So where was all that water during these fires? Because I was looking around and I couldn't find it. This is the thing. In 1994, the Resnicks held a secret little meeting and seized control of California's water supply. So that's 2 decades ago. They make some moves, and despite taxpayer dollars entitling them to water access, how about just being a person alive, a human? Billionaires are holding this water hostage. let me be clear. The companies that the Resnick own use 150 billion gallons every year, while our environment and our communities worsen under drought conditions. 150 billion gallons every year. Right now, in California and really across America, urban water systems are desperate for water. In the state of California in 2023, right? Despite the desperation, despite the need, in 2023 in the state of California, we received just 5% of what the state requested what the public requested from the California state. So where has all the water gone? Where has all the water gone? Where has it gone? Come with me. The Resnicks are the largest farmers in California. As of 2007, they owned 4 San Francisco's worth of farmland. That was 2007. It's expanded since. So how did they manage to take over such a large percentage of what was supposed to be a shared public resource? Well, get this, right? While the Resnicks were building their agricultural empire, right? Because everything we talked about, the mandarins, the pistachios, the almonds, they all need to be grown somewhere. So while they were building out their empire in big ag, the state of California was building some new kinds of water infrastructure with taxpayer money. So remember, this was identified decades ago. So one of the most important moves that the state of California made was to create the Kern Water Bank. This was started in 1988, right? So we talked about the water banks. It's called Kern. It cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build, and it was built using taxpayer money. So the people of California should have owned that water. But here's the thing. The Resnicks wanted it. This is where that secret meeting comes in. So here we are. The 90s, late 80s, early 90s, a cabal of big ag players got together, right, in the 90s for the secret meeting. So it's a mix of public and private agencies, right? Landowners, agricultural landowners, infrastructure contractors. So the people who build the things, right? State water officials. They got together in the 90s and they rewrote California's water rules without any input from voters, taxpayers, or legislators, okay? So what did they do? The amendments that they made were called the Monterey Plus Agreement, right? Or the Monterey Amendments. And these amendments were devastating for everyday Californians, but great for big ag and great for billionaires. So get this, the original code had something in it, right? Before the amendments, they had something in it called urban preference, right? Urban preference. So that was a longstanding legal precedent that in times of drought, the state water board would give urban areas, so the Palisades, the Hollywood Hills, Altadena, Pasadena, the places that have burnt, the places where people live, right? So in times of drought, the state water board would use those banks and would give urban areas access to water supplies before agricultural interests. As in, we are going to save the lives of people and animals over growing almonds. That sounds pretty fair to me. After this group of demons got together, right, and made those amendments, they killed the urban preference. Henceforth, right, in times of drought. So from here on in, the water systems the water systems that everyday Californians would, need, well, they now have to buy that water from private companies because they were no longer getting it from the state. They changed it. I mean, it's incredible. This is. So the meeting also changed ownership of the Kern Water Bank, right? So what once belonged to the people, to the state, now belonged to a few private water contractors, one of which was Westside Mutual. And guess who owned that? Yep, the Resnicks. That's how they did. So said differently, let me just say it differently. One simple secret meeting and the Resnicks now owned, this is the 90s, nearly 60% of an essential California water resource that was made using hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money. So the Resnicks stole a publicly owned water supply and could now sell that water back to the state water systems. They took our water and then they sold it back to us. And this is just one water bank. One. The Resnicks sit on and control other water boards, right? So they've even been sued for directing more water towards their properties, right? So this lawsuit was sourced from Bakersfield.com in an article called "Dispute Over Farm Water Heads to Court." So how are the Resnicks just doing this? How do they keep expanding their empire? How do they keep hoarding water? How is this possible? Why do we barely even know who these people are? This is my favorite part. So they get together, they have the secret meeting, right? They change the urban preference and make it so that the water that we need now goes to Big Ag. And then they stole the water bank. They stole the bank so that they could sell public water back to the state. And that state could then use that water to protect us. But we know that most of it doesn't get to us, does it? I just want to recite just 150 billion gallons of water is used by the Resnicks every year. Just think about that. Okay, so why have they been able to get away with this? The Resnicks hide behind their philanthropy. This is where things get really gross. They donate millions of dollars to politicians and research institutions, and both of these things keep their control of water systems intact, allow them to expand, and, therefore they increase their ownership. So who helped them most of all? Who helped the Resnicks? Who helped the Resnicks? One of their biggest supporters was Dianne Feinstein. That old bitch. God rest her soul. Remember her? So they could reach out and influence her directly at any point in time, right? And there's a long documented history of this. I'm still wrapping my head around this. So get this. So this is where things get really intense, because we know that billionaires buy loyalty and a slew of other things from politicians. We know this, right? This is why we say that Elon Musk bought this election. This is why we're seeing the oligarchy step out. But now it's not only that they're stepping out, we also have to start identifying who they are, because it turns out that feeling that we have that something's off about this, it's real. I mentioned these research institutions. So what role do they play in this, right? This is incredible. So yes, they're influencing our politicians. Feinstein is just one of them, right? So they buy entire research institutions, then fabricate studies on how water systems should be managed and where funding should go. Guess where they say the funding should go? To them. Guess who they say who should manage it? Them. They use those studies to justify expansion. This is corruption in the highest form, right? And here's my favorite part. When they want something built, like say, the proposed California Delta Tunnel that was supposed to help water go from here to here, right? They just get us to pay for it, the taxpayers. So we foot the bill for the projects that they need to move the water that they stole from us. The most disgusting part of all of this, agriculture uses 80% of California's water, but only represents 2% of its GDP. So the liquid gold, the water that they stole from us, right, that they then sell back to us whenever we need it for things like fire or drinking, right? The vast majority of it, though, goes to their farms. So you might hear some loser on the right say, well, that's okay because the ends justifies the means because it's good for our economy. No, it's not. It doesn't come back to us. It just goes into their pockets. We have literal water barons in California, and the Resnicks' water monopoly is just one part of their quest for wealth. For example, I just kept going deeper and deeper into this, right? I'm like, what are they doing in Congress? Because I know that they have a finger on the pulse with some of these politicians. What are they doing in Congress? Well, they have a lobby group. Right? So think about Iran. Where did Iran come from? Just think about Iran for a second, right? They love keeping tensions with Iran up. So they lobby to ensure that happens. Mother Jones reported, right, that they lobbied to keep trade sanctions and embargoes on Iran. Why? Because they didn't want Iranian pistachios in this market. Literally, people's houses burned to the fucking ground so that these niggas could keep selling pistachios. I just can't. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that because there's one friend in particular who grew up homeless and fucking, scraped and saved and bought this house. And I know he'll be fine and he will rebuild. They will rebuild, right? He's going to have to go through the whole insurance and mortgage thing, but it is infuriating to me because I just, I'm someone who prides myself, gay. I'm someone who cares about language immensely. And it's so rare when I can hardly find the words for the kind of cruelty, evilness, whatever it is. I'll work it out. I'll be much more articulate in another episode. But for now, it is 3-something a.m. Because, it's been endless following the news, monitoring the apps, divvying out resources to people, making sure that there's enough beds for enough needs, right? All of these things have been happening. And then there are these people who never ever have to live through or feel the devastation that they create, that they wreak on the lives of everyday people. So, what is this all for? Well, yeah. In the trade-off for destroying people's homes, right, for fucking up our water supplies and everything else, is we get to see these giant monocrops that are terrible for the land and that kill essential pollinators like bees. But this is my favorite part, on their land, right, on the land that they need so much water for, right? What else do we fund for them? What else do we give them? We pay for their charter schools, right? Charter schools get public funding. What are those charter schools for? Well, they're set up to train children to work on their farms. That's right. They've created an entire ecosystem that we fucking build, that we pay for. So Elon Musk and Donald Trump and all these people will tell you that it's Gavin Newsom's fault, right? That it's Karen Bass's fault, or it's the fault of DEI, or any number of things, right? They'll say, oh, the libtards, or the woke, or whatever, DEI, whatever stupid thing. But they'll never tell you what who is actually behind it, because it's their kind. It's billionaires, right? It always comes at our expense. They eat, we foot the bill, then we wash the dishes. Water is a human right. Water is a public resource. And as we said at Standing Rock, water is life. I'm going to be sitting with this for a while. Because it's not that there wasn't enough resourcing, and there was wind and all these other things, right? But at the end of the day, the reason why so much of this is happening, the reason why we couldn't find the water supply that we need to keep people safe, is because billionaires stole it. They stole it and they've been hoarding it for decades. And they stole it from us, from the people. They took it from us, then they sold it back. And they've done it 1 trillion times over. I'm still wrapping my head around this. This is not a traditional episode. We're not doing the voicemail thing. We've got to get back to figuring out whether or not, there's something we forgot. We packed up our stuff so that we could be ready to go at a moment's notice. I'm furious. But I'm telling you something. I'm going to tell you this, right? Not only I intend to get our back. I don't intend to just allow this to stand. When we find these things out, there's thing that we can do about it. I don't even care if it's about making TikToks about how shitty their almonds are. I really don't care. We are going to get our back. I am so disgusted. We talk about the implications and the dangers and the evil of late stage capitalism, but when you see it, when you see the end result in ashes from a home, that was a sanctuary for you at one point. If we don't get any peace, they don't either. They don't either. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Oh, I spilled something and I didn't even know it. Okay. I love you all very much. I'm so furious. And I'm going to get a little bald cat just because that's that level of villainy. I'm gonna get a little bald cat or a black one. And I'll give her some ridiculous name like Asada Shakur. No, that's disrespectful. Okay, you know what? I got to sign off because everything else I say is going to get so much more unhinged. These aren't even KR's hours. Look what I'm doing to this person. All right. But why is KR here? Not just because they're my homie, but because the smoke was so dense in their area. That's also a red zone that they needed to leave because little Purnell was sneezing and throwing up weird things. I will never forgive that. Don't you ever touch Purnell. Okay. I love you all very much. I'm going to hit that outro music. I've lost the plot clearly. No, you know what? Maybe we need to be the ones writing the goddamn stories. Here we go. Let's go off on that. Okay. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to JFK Today. It means the world to me. The show really is a labor of love. New episodes drop. Oh, you know what? I got to pause this music for a second. Hold on. I forgot to mention, listen. I forgot to mention, this is the last episode this week. Yes, we are doing 5, but because of the, state emergency that we're in and just the need to just find people and resources and with the, power outages, etc. We're going to cap it at a 4 episode week. I'll be here. You know it. I'll be here. But, I forgot to mention that. I was about to say 5 times a week, and I was like, that's a lie. Okay, now just pretend that I never stopped the music and that everything was happening as it was supposed to. Okay, here we go. Great. If you love the show, feel free to support as best you can, our patreon.com/JanayaFK. Right. Don't forget, I want to hear from you. Drop us an email and a voice note question at jfktodayshow@gmail.com. Shout out to KR and Carolyn. And shout out to you, the listeners that make it all possible. Love you. Peace.